hindsight, 2020 was probably going down in the history books as the year we'd all like to forget. But if you want to go into 2021 stronger, it's time to reflect on lessons learned and the steps for reevaluating the status quo. Like 47% of professionals, I feel that we will survive and recover stronger from 2020 very quickly. As the holiday season marks the beginning of a brighter future, I reflect back on what lessons I can take into 2021. Here goes. Top 8 things I learned in 2020. Lesson number 1. Execution. By the time 2020 showed all its claws in June 2020, I gathered that the only thing I would be able to control is execution. So I set myself a personal resolution. I would only focus on execution. While making mistakes was okay as long as I recognized and learned from it. I knew that I wouldn't be able to drive things which I didn't love and continue to spend my time purposefully. So a large part of my time to grow myself and business was to focus on YouTube, on self-learning, building a website, creating a business around promoting digital products, and of course, my book centered around customer experience that I was writing. What happened was quite healing. So while the rest of the world was worried sick about uncertainties, I was getting really busy and working much harder to compensate for it. So in the process, I focused on what I loved doing, dropping all those things not worth doing at all. Lesson number 2. Recalibration. In 2020, many of us saw loved ones suffer, pass on, and the value of relationships became so much stronger. Many of us lost their only sense of livelihood and had very little to turn back to. This gave much deeper value to working from home, gig economies, and earning multiple sources of income for self-sustenance. I recognized this a few years back, and I was fortunate to putting these things into place. Even as the year just started, I gained quite a bit from that self-start. Lesson number 3. Discard annual thinking. At the beginning of the year, if you asked anybody about their plans for the year, they would have probably rattled off the usual plan. But as the year went on, it turned ugly for too many of us. Current jobs turned redundant and people were laid off. As many go back to work for current or future employers, the job roles are likely to change pretty quickly and newer skills will be in demand. So my focus has been to acquire some of these new skills, whether it's video editing, photo editing, writing a more effective script, doing a new business, whether it's growing my own business, and so on and so forth. I also spent time reading a book from Brian Moran's titled The 12-Week Year that deeply impacted my thinking process, and I recalibrated my goal setting and execution framework considerably across the year. The book laid emphasis to redundant annual thinking process and the new way of doing things every 12 weeks as if it's a new year. In the process of reading the book, don't make 12 weeks look like 3 months and 4 of them make a year. But look at the 12 weeks as all the time you've got to make an impact for each of the 12-week periods that you have to deliver to. As the saying goes, a CEO has 90 days to deliver. That's 12 weeks and some. And so should you if you were running your life as its CEO. I read a book many years ago where the author, a pilot, describes that they take many calibrations on a simple 2-hour perfectly normal flight to get the plane from point A to point B. So, as I delivered in 2020, I realized each of my 12-week execution plans were no different. Lesson number 4. No space for mediocre. No Olympic 100-meter sprint is run half-baked. Runners sprint flat out. There is no time to think, stop, or take a pause. That same runner can't run a marathon since he has trained all his life to sprint. So I took lessons from that experience to do a few things well and not a dozen things mediocre. A mentor told me, do 3 things well in a year, leave the rest for the next one. For me, a year is 12 weeks. So my aim is to champion 3 things and have 3 execution goals per thing that I want to achieve, making it 9 things to deliver in 12 weeks. It served me really well this year. Lesson number 5. Periodization. In sports training, each year is divided into manageable intervals or mesocycles. For me, a year is 12 weeks. A mesocycle is 4 weeks. For example, if I am looking to enhance my Final Cut Pro video editing skills or learn website building, I spend 4 weeks honing my skill and then go on to the next skill to learn after that. In the process, I build 6 really strong skills every year with 2 repeat cycles. To ensure that I don't lose the skill, I bake this into my daily workflows. So my skill keeps growing naturally even though I've stopped learning as a student in class. Over time, I use this to learn a new software, a habit that I want to initiate, or a habit I've been mulling about. Lesson number 6. Data versus insight. I've always been a data-driven person, but I didn't capture enough personal data about myself. During 2020, I used tools like Toggle very efficiently to drive insights on how certain buckets of time were being used. These insights led me to save more than 20% of my week, which to me was substantial. It's like in a tough year, I got an automatic 20% raise just due to this feature that I just implemented. Lesson number 7. Automate, automate, automate. As a management consultant, I have been involved in significant corporate automation in areas like AI, RPA, or digital. So while we provided efficiencies in the corporate workplace, I took very little time out to automate my personal workflows that could give me the same or more benefits. I spent a large portion of my time investing into productivity software and hardware like Notion, Keyboard Maestro, or Stream Deck. All of this returned back all my investment and much more. As I get into 2021, I'm convinced that our investments into AI tools will pay us back in spades with the right workflow adjustments. Lesson number 8. Keep score. As I move from 2020 to 2021, I'm increasingly realizing substantial benefits on keeping score and feeling comfortable by being uncomfortable. This helps me pick myself up and do things that I dared not do at the beginning of 2020. With all these lessons, I go into 2021 with my main theme, think differently. If you're not yet part of this community, do consider subscribing and don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay notified of new videos. If you like the video, consider sharing it with your friends. This will be my last video in 2020 on YouTube, and I want to wish my viewers a very happy and a prosperous 2021. Stay safe, stay healthy, peace.